It's fun to do that, by the way. I thought we had plenty of fruit.
On the council? Or?
I didn't delineate the definition. We want to welcome everybody to the West Jordan City Council meeting for November 16th, 2022. We have 6 council members in chambers. Council member Jacob, council member Worthen, council member Green, council member Bloom, council member Pack, council member McConaughey. Council Chair Whitelock is probably in an airplane someplace towards the eastern seaboard so she can go see Reba McEntire. So she's going to have fun. Along with this, I think I'm supposed to do that as part of state code. Along with this, we have the council office with us, all 3 members. We have Mr. David Quayle from the city attorney's office to keep us out of trouble. We have the mayor, and we have the mayor, and we have Chief Administrative Officer Mr. Lee here. With that, we are going to, we'll also welcome, I understand there are some students here from West Jordan High School, is that right? You got the punishment of coming to the West Jordan City Council as an assignment. We're sorry. No, we're glad you're here. We will start out with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Dave Murphy of our public, you're in public utilities these days, right? Okay, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we do public comment, I just wanted to, early on in the meeting, before we get too late, nobody's watching, want to specifically thank our public facilities staff, and particularly, I promised I wasn't going to get emotional, and I'm probably going to do it anyway. Thank our event staff for a great Veterans Day event that we had. Ashley and Sherry did a great job. I don't know how many veterans were there. Corbin, do you have any idea? Probably over 100. Would that be your guess? Is 100 plus?
Well, total attendees, but not all were veterans.
How many attendees? Okay. So we had 100, 150 attendees. It was well attended event, and want to make sure that they are publicly recognized for that early in the meeting, and not Councilmember McConaughey wants to be out of here by 7:49, but you know, I want to make sure that they're recognized before 9:45 tonight. So, so with that, we will now open the meeting for public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for the residents of West Jordan City to address the city council. We do have a public hearing tonight. If you're here to address the issue in the public hearing tonight, you have the opportunity to speak then. You may speak on any topic, whether on the agenda or not. You may have 3 minutes to speak. We don't typically respond to the questions or engage in commentary, but we will listen to your comments. We do ask you to maintain the decorum of the meeting, the safety of the meeting. We don't accept anonymous comments. I will now open it for, and Mr. Anderson, I don't have the Zoom meeting open, so I'm going to rely on you to tell me if there's anybody in the Zoom meeting.
Yes, there is an individual, Mr. Wilkinson has raised his hand.
Okay, so we will go first to Mr. Wilkinson. Can you unmute him?
I've got it.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember McConaughey. Mr. Wilkinson, we have unmuted you. You have 3 minutes, and please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So I had the chance to speak with your mayor a few weeks ago. I appreciate him taking the time to talk to me on the phone. It was again, very, very appreciative. I was able to ask some very pointed questions, and the answers I got were somewhat disappointing. And they actually, I think he agrees with me on everything I believe. This concerns the South Valley Regional Airport there. I asked him if the airport is necessary to West Jordan. The answer was no. I asked if the airport constitutes a problem for West Jordan residents. He said it probably does. I asked if West Jordan benefits financially from the airport. The answer was no, there's no direct revenue. I asked what problems does the airport cause for West Jordan. He said noise is probably the most common problem I hear about. So I said, if these problems persist and West Jordan doesn't benefit, why do you allow the airport to be there? Why don't you push back? And there was no good answer. And I think we talked for about 40 minutes. And what it ultimately came down to was, going through my notes here, sorry. Said West Jordan residents like the airport. That's what it came down to. It is irrational to acknowledge very obvious problems that are detrimental to a community, and then to say that the residents, to their detriment, like the problem. I would ask anyone there, if you have different answers, please reach out to me again. I've said this before, I will pay you for your time if you can rationalize some of these issues. Like I said before, I grammar requested the information. You guys don't make much money off of it. So to those who said it was an economic driver for your tax base, it's not. It's not. Within the last half hour, there's a military helicopter and 2 private aircraft circling the residents of your community. The helicopter was well below 500 feet. The 2 aircraft belong to private companies. One is based in Lehigh. I believe the other one is based in Spanish Fork. You don't make a dime off of this. They're interfering with your residents' lives as I sit here and speak. And you have bigger things like the naming of roads to do.
I'm sorry, your time has expired. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else on Zoom, Mr. Anderson, that is there?
There's not.
Thank you. With that, then I'm going to come back into chambers. Is there anybody that would like to address the city council? Seeing none, I am going to close the public hearing or public comments, and we will go to special recognition. We have 2 resolutions under special recognition tonight. Mayor, I'm going to turn the time over to both we have 2 separate ones that we'll vote on separately, but we will turn the time over to you for both of them at the same time, and then we can proceed. How's that? Will that work?
Yes.
Thank you.
Don't pull them up on there. Okay. Do you have their names? Just put that up, please. Thank you. Alan was telling me he doesn't have their pictures, but we have the real live thing instead, so we'll take that. Okay, so the first one is having Brian Clegg to serve on the Transjordan City's landfill. Right now, the person who's filling in there is David Newton. He's been the chair, and then he was the vice chair. And then after we made our changes in the city, that took Greg off of there. So we want to put Brian in there now. Because solid waste goes under Brian's department, and Greg is in utilities department, and that causes separation there. And we have sent that through, and that has gone through, and I'd like to give Councilmember Pack an opportunity to explain their position on there. But as the mayor, I would be in favor of putting Brian Clegg on the Transjordan Landfill Board. He has attended some of their meetings already and is already doing a fantastic job in that position. And then would still keep Dave Newton as the vice or the secondary, whichever that position is called. Alternate, that's what it's called. And he'll continue to serve as alternate. So that's that one there. The second one is David Murphy. David Murphy would be, I propose that he serves as the South Valley Water Reclamation Facility Board member. He is now in the utilities department in the city, and Dave has a lot of history and background with the sewer department and with the city, and will be a critical person there. He has already started to attend those meetings and has made a difference there, and will do a fantastic job, not just watching out for our city, but making sure the South Valley is providing the services that our city needs. And Brian, would you stand up for a second so everyone can see who you are and know that this is Brian Clegg? That's Brian Clegg. And if you have any questions for him, he'd love to answer them to you. He sings pretty well, so you can answer them in singing tunes if you like. Thank you, Brian. And then this is Dave Murphy over here. In life, 3-dimension, which is better than 2-dimension because their job requires 3-dimension work. Thank you.
Councilmember Pack, I'm going to give you a second to, since your committee is in charge of mayoral appointments, I'll let you comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Green. Yes, the Subcommittee on Mayoral Appointments unanimously approves both resolutions. Grateful for their willingness to serve. Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a couple of motions.
Can they be done together, or do we need to do two? Can I move to approve Resolution 22-051 and Resolution 22-052?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Jacob to approve both resolutions on one vote. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none. Ms. Quick, let's do a roll call vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Worden,
Yes.
Councilmember Pack,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Vice Chair Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
We will now move. So thank you for, I was going to say your willingness to serve in West Jordan City, but I think the mayor just added this as other duties as signed and said, tag, you're it. So no, I think that it will help us immensely in the city. So thank you for what you're going to do on those boards. I was waiting for somebody to have some puns about, wastewater and garbage, but we'll stay away from those. So thank you for what you do for the city. With that, we will now move to the mayor's report. Mr. Mayor, give us your report, please.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to do that. First, with the council's permission, I would like to complete some of the discussion from Mr. Wilkinson. His quotes on me were accurate, but there was more that followed after the words. And I won't go into the whole 40 minutes of our conversation, but I will say that I believe the city benefits economically from the airport. I know of businesses who have located in West Jordan as a result of the airport, and businesses that use the airport. And the airport is a business like other businesses, and we like that airport to be successful and other businesses, which makes West Jordan successful. So that's just the short version of some of the conversation that we had as well. On other things, we had our e-waste shred event on Saturday, November 5th. That was fantastically attended. It was the last one of the year. We'll have some more next year. The public loves it. They like the new location, so even after the City Hall remodel, our plan is to continue to keep it over at Public Works. It goes very smooth over there. The Utah League of Cities and Towns had a meeting with the mayors of the cities of the first and second class, and so we are invited there because we're a first class city, and we got to share some ideas and things with them and hear from other cities on what their concerns and needs are on the upcoming session. And that way we can have them voice for us in addition to us when it comes up to the legislators, and that'll be good. We had the West Jordan Fire Department Annual Awards Banquet on the November 7th. It was exciting to be there. Thank you for those council members that joined us to that. I think we had Councilmember Green and Councilmember Whitelock were there. Oh, Councilmember Worthen. It starts with a W. Thank you for being there. And Councilmember Pack. Thank you. Oh, Councilmember Whitelock was there too, right? Okay. That was great. Thanks for them. We always know that our fire department is great, and that just reconfirms how good they're doing. Whistling Elementary School had a Veterans Day parade and assembly. I got to participate in. I got to walk in the parade with them and talk to them about Veterans Day for a couple of minutes. That was a pleasure to represent the city there, so thank you for that. Let me do that. And I went to the Utah Bike Safety Symposium. They asked me to come and talk to it. Somebody heard that I ride a bike sometimes, so I got to go and represent our city at that, along with Representative Steinquist from Sandy, and we had a great time entertaining the group and helping encourage more safety in biking across our communities and beyond. The Jordan River Friends and Celebration Recognition happened on Thursday night, and thank you for Councilmember Green for attending that, along with a couple other staff members from our city. That was great to see the progress that's happened on the Jordan River in the last 10 years. Some of you who are younger probably don't know what the river used to look like, but it looks really nice now. But come back and keep going. In the next 10 years, we got plans to make it even more cool and better. In fact, I was walking out the Jordan River today, checking out birds. That's why I'm wearing my bird tie. And it's amazing if you do it and do it quietly. You can hear them. The leader of the group is saying, "Now listen, okay, I hear such and such a bird." She turn over and look, and we look and find the bird. And we did that several times. That was quite amazing. To think this river is in the middle of our community, yet we have all this wildlife that's right there. So take a few minutes to go check that out. Anyway, that was a good experience from the event, and then the one I had this morning too. And you already mentioned our city's Veterans Day program, so thank you for making that happen, Council, and for the council members that attended, Councilmember Green, Councilmember Pack, and Councilmember Whitelock. The Cultural Arts Society of West Jordan had a talent show auction that I attended there, and Councilmember Whitelock was there as well. I got some nice art that I brought back with me and got to enjoy the talents of many people at that event that night. And earlier today, I attended the Utah Foundation annual luncheon and got to rub shoulders with some other individuals in other cities and organizations. And earlier today was the Truck Ranch groundbreaking. I was unable to attend that because I was at the Utah Foundation meeting. But Council Member Green, I understand that you were there. Thank you. And any other council members there with you? Thank you for representing our city at that event there today. That was great. If you haven't heard, the next 2 days, all of our department heads will be attending the outward mindset training. So we may be difficult to reach for the next couple of days, but after we go through that training, when you do reach us, we'll be better to accommodate to your needs. So this is some training that teaches us how to do our job even better. And Copper Hills High School, sorry guys, invited me to speak to their U.S. government class. Is this a U.S. government class? Oh, so talk to your teacher, tell our Copper Hills High School is having me come, and I'd be happy to come to yours as well. So I will be doing that on November 21st, so don't do November 21st. You can do another date. So I'm looking forward to representing our city at that event as well. And of course, we have the holiday event coming up. I hope you've got that on your calendars and you'll all be there. That will be on December 1st, and Santa Claus is coming to town. So make sure you do that. That'll be at the Viridian, December 1st. That's our big party for the final one for the year. And that is my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Lee.
I'd like Greg to give you a quick update on some things happening in our water system this evening, and also Tanya to give you an update on communications.
I just wanted to give you a quick heads up. Not too long ago, we had a car travel down 70th South, and they ran over a manhole that had come loose, and a manhole ring and collar, and it moved and flipped up and damaged the car underneath and caused all kinds of problems. We did a temporary fix at the time, but tonight we're going to do a permanent fix. It's right in the middle of intersection of 22 and 70th. So between 11:30 tonight and 5:30 in the morning, our city crews will be out there. They'll divert traffic on 70 South around the around the work zone, but the traffic on 22 will have to make a right turn only. So there will be a short period of time where travelers on 22 will have to go to 70th and take another route around. So I just want to make sure that you knew about that. That has been posted on our website. Thanks.
11:20. Oh, that's last year's. Never mind. I know there was a new one.
There we go. Okay. I spent a great day up at the Capitol this morning with legislative interim. It's a busy bustle as elections are over and people are starting to file their bills. So you'll see a legislative update in your email. And I just wanted to give you a brief update on, speaking of email, on our email newsletter that's been going out. We're on our third month of the email newsletter, so I thought it'd be a good time to give you some feedback. When I initially came to you, I mentioned we had set our goal at about a 48% open rate, which sounds like a low number, but it's very high for email. Averages tend to be between 30 and 40% open rates for a city. I'm happy to report that we've maintained a 60% open rate. We're working really hard to ensure that we have good calls to action and that we're providing residents with relevant information. And so we're a little particular about what goes out in those emails, but very well received. We also are receiving a higher than average click rate. I do think that that will go down over time a little bit, but we're hoping to maintain higher than expected levels on that. And are just really pleased with the communications that's going out. So I wanted to provide you that feedback as it's been a new adjustment for the city. Thank you.
Just one more thing from me. I just want to update you on our progress to move into the temporary city hall. The street staff has been helping the facility staff this past week move over furniture, move boxes, and move staff over. The communications team has a full communications plan that's being executed tomorrow, Tanya, I believe, with signs, reader board, and other website and other information directing anyone who wants to visit City Hall to the new temporary City Hall. The last of the staff will be moving over, I believe, tomorrow, and services will be offered at the new city hall starting tomorrow or Friday. The particularly, I just want to make note of the facility staff and the IT staff who have put in a lot of extra hours to make this move to the temporary city hall happen as quickly as possible. Robert Allred, who's our IT director, has been particularly helpful calling in extra work and favors and exercising every part of his professional network to find parts, switches, and servers to get that new building up and running. And he's been very, very good. As I came to city council meeting tonight, it was late. There were still about a half dozen cars over there from our staff working on the building, getting it ready to go. So, anyways, we would like to show you the building if you haven't seen it yet, and the staff will be there starting, I believe, well, staff are there, but I believe the public is open tomorrow or Friday. That's it. That's it from me.
Thank you. With that, we will move to the next agenda item, reports to council, the annual business survey report with Mr. Pengra.
Chair,
Councilmember McConaughey.
thank you. Was there a presentation that goes along with this or information that was going to be provided to the council? Because there was nothing in the agenda. So if there was something that was going to be given to us, I'm wanting to propose to move this to a later meeting so that we have time to review and pull together our questions, so we're not seeing it for the first time now and potentially missing our opportunity to ask intelligent questions.
So there's a PowerPoint presentation which was sent late yesterday, and that's on me. Do you have that PowerPoint?
Yeah, we received it about 5:30 last night.
And that's on me, council. That's business retention and expansion manager Mark is going to give you the presentation. I was going to give you the preamble, but if you'd like to move that to another meeting, we can do that. That'll give us some time we can send you a full-blown report, which will be going back to the business community as well, which is being polished right now.
Yeah, so Chair, based on that and very much wanting to have a full packet before the agenda gets published, I would move that we postpone this to a meeting that council leadership determines appropriate.
I'll second that.
We have we have a motion by Council Member McConaughey. I'm going to summarize it to postpone to a date uncertain.
Whatever council leadership, if it works great on the next meeting, awesome. If it needs to adjust because different things are prioritized for holiday schedule, whatever leadership sees fit.
I think if we do postpone to date uncertain, that I think it meets the rules. It was seconded by Council Member Bloom. It is a voice vote. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, I rule that motion to postpone was unanimous, and we will postpone that, and we'll work with Mr. Pengra in his office, and hopefully that will, and we'll get that. Moving along, we will get to item 7A, ordinance number 2249, amending section 1370-8. It's about conditional use permits. And he's already standing at the podium, so it must be yours, Mr. Murray. So please give us the introduction.
You bet. So normally this would be Larry Gardner, our main city planner, that would give this presentation, as most of these land use text amendment ordinances work their way from staff to planning commission to you as a council. Then that would be your normal method. This has been a tougher ordinance to work with. We've been trying to do several things at once, and we were focused primarily as staff and planning commission on this one particular section, 13-70-8, which is part of a 13-section article about conditional uses. And this particular section is focused on the criteria for approval. It's been in our code for a while. Part of the intent of staff and planning commission was to focus primarily on the substance, in particular the criteria for approval. It became apparent, though, through the process that there's both some procedural and process type issues, and then there's also the substantive issues, including the criteria. And it became apparent that we probably need to look at the whole 13-section article. So ultimately, it became kind of a legal determination or a recommendation from the legal department to the planning division and now to you as a council that we maybe look at this process, look at the processes and the substance separately, and maybe start back at the planning commission and work our way back to you as the recommendation. But since this is a public hearing, my understanding is that the council staff wanted to move forward with the public hearing, so I could probably at least explain a little bit about the current version of the section that the staff and planning commission have looked at, if there's a way to put that clean version up on the screen. We have a lot of criteria for different types of applications, whether it's conditional use or zoning map changes, future land use map changes. And the reason for the criteria is just to focus in on those items that are important, especially for the planning commission when they're making a recommendation to you on map amendments. That gives them something to formulate their recommendations to you on. Even more important when it's an administrative process like this conditional use permit where they are the decision maker. If you notice in the clean version that of at least the final proposal that made its way to you, that the first two criteria, A and B, are pretty much focused on whether the conditional use, the proposed conditional use, is in keeping with or consistent with the code and the provisions of the zoning district that it's in. And that's part of what we did too, is you'll notice that the criteria changed order, right? If you look at that legislative process there, so by the time you get to the clean, not only have we changed a few words, but the order has changed. And I think the order makes more sense now. The first two, like I say, are how consistent is the proposed use with the code and with the zoning district requirements. The criteria C and D are focused on infrastructure. How's the access to public streets and connection to utility systems. And then E and F are really the meat of the current law, which is the staff and especially the planning commission identifying what those conditional or what those potential detrimental effects are, and then what conditions can be used to mitigate them. And then finally, condition D, that if those conditions are imposed, is that proposed conditional use reasonably compatible with the surrounding uses. So I think we're on the right track. I think we have a good, at least starting point for a good section for the new section for the criteria. But then we still need to focus in on making sure that the other sections all line up with it as far as the processes and procedures. Just so you know that the last couple of conditional use permits that have worked their way through the Planning Commission, they've updated the template. In fact, yesterday the staff report for the conditional use looked a lot closer to where these criteria are headed. I think we're getting more and more in an optimal position of being compliant with state law and so forth. So it's kind of a combined effort of updating processes, templates, and then having good city code to match. So, but part of the reason too today is, in addition to the public hearing, if there's feedback that we can get from you as to your thoughts on these processes and changes, that'd be great.
Any questions for Mr. Murray before we go into the public hearing and then afterwards we can make some comments, propose suggestions. Seeing none, I am going to open the public hearing. And so if there's a member of the public that would like to discuss our conditional use process, please come to the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Is there anyone in Zoom right now that I see a negative response? So there's no one in Zoom. It doesn't look like we have a crowd rushing to the podium. I'm going to just play it is in the business license code. I can play auctioneer. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to bring it back to the council member McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that staff mentioned that they're going to go back and look at this on at a higher level, but I just want to share a couple thoughts about what's already been out there. I put this in an email and sent it to both of you. Well, the short, condensed version of my thoughts. First off, line number 15, the proposed conditional use is consistent with the intents and goals and policies of city code. We had struck out general plan. I'd prefer to keep general plan. Code is obviously something they're required to follow anyway, so I don't think we need to call it that they need to be consistent with code. But code doesn't get into intent or goals as much as the general plan does, so it seems kind of incongruent there. So I also didn't want to diminish the value of the general plan by striking its reference here. That's kind of a big deal to me. Row number 19, we talk about the proposed site has safe and adequate access. We're adding the word safe to this, and I can see, depending on the type of business, that might become something that's rather hotly debated. Why would it be safe for one business that's permitted but not safe for one that's conditionally permitted? I would almost leave that as it is rather than adding the word safe to it, unless there's a differential impact. If a permitted business is going to have a certain level of traffic, but a conditional is going to have more traffic, then maybe there needs to be an explanation for the additional traffic. But outside of that, I didn't see anything for the word that would justify having the word safe there. But I could see that becoming a point of contention with somebody who doesn't really like something, just arguing, well, it's not safe, without really defining what that is. Rows 26 through 31, we've struck out the section about not being materially detrimental to health, safety, general welfare. There's some new verbiage in here. I like the thought process behind it, but the specific language had me a little concerned. We changed this to say, studies and other information have been reviewed to adequately identify reasonably anticipated detrimental effects. So now it sounds like we're requiring studies, plural, and additional information. So rather than doing that without saying what needs to be included in the study, how many studies, what type of studies, I would suggest potential impacts, both beneficial and detrimental, have been identified, as well as reasonable mitigation efforts. It just sounded like we were requiring multiple studies, and I didn't want to raise concern there. And then again on row 32, adequate conditions that comply with city code or other legal requirements have been incorporated. Again, I think it might be redundant referencing that we need to comply with code. That's kind of ground rules already. So those were my thoughts. Thank you very much.
I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to slightly disagree with Councilmember McConaughey. Section A, B, C, Section A, B, C, D are unnecessary. A conditional use has already been put into the table. When we put a conditional use into the table, we have already said that the conditional use, because we put it as a conditional use in the use table, we've already said that it's consistent with the general plan. We've already said that it's consistent with the purpose of the zoning. We've already said that we should not have control. Like in B, it says the proposed site is adequate in size and shape to accommodate the proposed conditional use. What we have to look at is the detrimental effect of that business, and can the detrimental effect be mitigated? The proposed site has safe and adequate access. Councilmember McConaughey's right. You've got a permitted use on the property. The question is the additional traffic a detrimental effect because of that conditional use, and how do you mitigate that? We don't need to have it says it's safe and adequate. It's, is that that's a detrimental effect based on that. For example, and it's my favorite example, you have a zone that requires fast food restaurant. Fast food restaurant always requires a conditional use. Why? Because you have a line of cars, you have an ugly marquee that lights up and might affect the neighbors, and you got a sound thing. Those are the reasonable detrimental effects for that area. Let's mitigate those, or do the steps that we need to do to reasonably mitigate it. So I actually believe, and D, that the business, whether it's a permitted business or not, it's got to have the water and sewer and other utilities to even be there. So A, B, C, and D are totally unnecessary. I agree with Councilmember McConaughey that what we need to do is just, maybe we just strike the first part of the sentence and just say, identify reasonably anticipated detrimental effects and the reasonable conditions, and then, and start the sentence out that way. I think F is totally unnecessary for a conditional use, because every business has to comply with city code. And number G, the proposed conditional use will be reasonably compatible with surrounding uses. That should have been done when we put that into the table. And then if there's a detrimental effect, and if the detrimental effect doesn't work with surrounding uses, maybe we need to go back and just remove it from the table and not allow it as a permitted use in that zone, instead of what we have done. And you've probably heard my rant when I was on planning commission and now as a city council. The whole idea of a conditional use is to deal with the detrimental effect. It's the only thing that's there. And we don't need to worry about setbacks and parking and what we have done. I'm just going to tell you, and this is a long-term historical thing, I can tell. What we have done is we have said, I'll use a perfect example. I remember maybe Councilmember Jacob was on the planning commission when we had these discussions. There was a dance studio that was they wanted to be in a manufacturing zone. And we spent hours talking about the crosswalk and how they were going to park and how we were going to protect the kids. But that's not a detrimental effect of the business on the business on the area. That's us being paternalistic to say, how do we protect the safety of the kids? Well, I don't have a problem with the safety of the kids, but I have a problem doing it as a conditional use, saying, and what we have done is we have used conditional uses to say, wait a minute, do we really, what we want to do is we want to have that business there, but we really want a second bite of the apple, and do we really want to allow that business there? And it allows the neighbors and those that live around the area think that they have some sort of control. Well, conditional use is an administrative thing, and you meet it or you don't. And if I misquote the law, jump in. But and you can't use public clamor on a conditional use. You have to use the criteria, and all the case law, the way at least what I've read, is that it all comes down to the standard, whatever you want to call it, the detrimental use, and whether or not you can mitigate the detrimental use. And that's where we need to focus here. And then I like the idea of looking at, if we're going to look at paragraph 8, that we look at paragraphs 1 through 7 and paragraphs 9 through 13, in particularly the one that I want to really look at is planning commission grants the conditional use. Planning commission should be the one that revokes it. Development services director may be able to make that recommendation, but if the planning commission grants it, planning commission should take it away. Not a staff member after a planning commission recommendation. So I want to look at 137010, a couple other things just to make them more consistent with what we're going to do in 1378. I know there's a couple of things up above in a couple other sections I want to work on and reword. So that's my feedback. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you. I'm just going to say what I said earlier tonight. I love it when you get on a libertarian tear. This is kind of nice. I agree with just about everything. When you started going down the list and saying we don't need A, B, C, or D, I was like, well, wait, hold on a second. Yes, we do, but you're right. They're applicable to every business, not just conditional use businesses. The only thing that's applicable to a conditional use in a given zone is you put a condition because there's certain reasons why it can't just be blank slated permitted. You have to mitigate some detrimental effects, and that's all that there is. That's the only difference between a conditional permit and a permit in a zone. So I am on board. You talked me into it on this one. So yeah, let's do that. What he said.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Well, if you're going to disagree with me, I just need to disagree with you. The only thing I could find to argue, however, was your characterization of G as a number rather than a letter. So
I'm sorry. I did graduate from the University of Utah, where 2 + 2 means anything you want it to mean, if you know that joke.
So, what is the appropriate motion? Because I know this needs to come back. I didn't hear if there was a date and I know that staff doesn't prefer to have public hearings open to a date undetermined.
Yeah, as Larry's indicating, I think if you're
Oh, that's right. You said start the whole process again, go back to the planning
Remand
commission,
to the
fresh
planning
start,
commission.
not a continuance. Okay, there had been conversation earlier about a continuance, so no motion seems to be needed if there's no action to be taken. So
I still would recommend a procedural motion to remand it back.
Yeah, I think
It would, the correct motion would be to refer it back to the planning commission, but I would also indicate that it's inclusive of all sections 1 through 13, is it?
Yes. I will make the motion that and I lost it. All right. What ordinance number is this? I just, my screens are backwards and I can't move my mouse.
It's 2249.
I move that we remand ordinance 22-49 back to the planning commission to look at all 13 sections of 13.7E.
second with discussion.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Green, a second by Council Member McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. Go ahead, Council Member McConaughey.
Since we're expanding the scope and kicking it back to the planning commission, I'm a little hesitant to do that part. I'd rather we have this in a work session where we can share our thoughts and ideas before it goes to them, so we don't have a lot of back and forth. It goes to the planning commission, then it comes to us. It's significant material changes, has to go back to them again. I'd rather just start here with us. That's why I was hesitant to offer a motion and rather just let it proceed its course. I'd almost rather just deny this motion and let staff start from scratch if we need to go that route.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table, and if I understand Robert's Rules of Order, now the motion belongs to the body and not the person that gave it. So we have to vote on this motion.
Unless you withdraw your motion.
You can't withdraw a motion. I looked that up the other
Okay.
day. So let's vote on this. I don't want to have to vote in favor of my own motion, but all those in favor of remanding it to the planning commission, say aye. Alan, before I do that, let me, go ahead.
Under modified Roberts rules that you have in council policy and procedures, for withdrawing a motion, it must be voted unless there is no objection. So if there is an
Okay, so is there
objection, you
any,
can withdraw.
is there any objection to withdrawing the motion? Seeing none, then we'll move that, we'll withdraw the motion and we'll do a second motion. And so, Councilmember McConaughey, do you have a motion?
Move to deny ordinance 22-49.
Or, so before you second it, can I ask a question? You want to just remand, or do you want to just refer motion that the
So-
ordinance to the committee of the whole and we discuss it further?
Yeah, that's probably easier. Motion withdrawn since it doesn't have a second yet, and I would like to second the one that you're going to make with that verbiage.
I move to refer ordinance number 2249 to the committee of the whole.
Second.
So now we have a motion on the table to refer this ordinance to committee of the whole for, and then we have a second discussion to the motion.
Thank you, Chair. So for the benefit of the high school students who are here wondering what that just was, the Committee of the Whole is a less formal group of the City Council where we kind of go into workshop mode and we talk more freely and it's not as formal. So we're basically saying, yeah, let's go back and talk amongst ourselves before we send staff off to do too much more work. So yes, that was a very long way to go back and say, let's talk to ourselves. Thank you, Chair.
Council Member Green,
And you go ahead.
I just wanted to add, you may want to just say, looking at section, that other motion died, you may want to just say sections 1 through 13, but I think the staff already understands that too.
Yeah. Well, as long as we refer it back to the committee of the whole, we'll just take the lead, we'll just take the role and get we know what we're doing. No. All those in we have a motion. Any further discussion to the motion? All those in favor of referring this to the committee of the whole? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. We will refer that to the committee of the whole. We'll get with the staff and work on the entire section and clean that up. And then I'm sure we'll, at that point, remand it back to the planning commission. So, cool. Thank you. Councilmember McConaughey?
If you've moved on to agenda item 8, I have a motion.
We are at agenda item number 8. Please make your motion.
Move to approve all consent items.
Second.
Since there are no resolutions or ordinances attached, all those in favor, no, let me rephrase that. Councilmember McConaughey moved to approve all consent items, seconded by Councilmember Bloom. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passed unanimously 6-0. We will now go to the council office report. Mr. Anderson, it's your turn in the batter's box.
Thank you, Council. As the mayor mentioned, tomorrow and Friday, we are, as department heads, attending some training on the outward mindset. It's something that Chief Wallentyne has been teaching to all the police officers, so we will be doing that. We've been asked to minimize our phone and computer, so my email will have forwarding and my phones will be going over to staff. But if you do need to reach me, just text me. But Cassidy and Cindy Miss Hanson and Mrs. Quick will be more than happy to address your needs over the next 2 days. The council office has vacated City Hall completely, and we work today in the new temporary offices just up the street on Redwood Road. So everything was functioning well, and it was warmer than City Hall. So we're grateful for that. It'll be nice to have all the rest of the staff there the rest of this week and beginning next week. And that's all I can, yes, we did attend, we did take some photos, which I will send to you from the Veterans Day celebration on Friday, and also the groundbreaking event today at Truck Ranch. Very excited for these projects coming in, and we're happy to assist the council in your efforts. Thank you.
We will now move on to city council reports. Councilmember Pack was quick on the trigger, so you're up first.
Great, thank you, Vice Chair. It's already been mentioned how wonderful our event staff is and the program that we had for the Fire Department Awards banquet and the Veterans Day event. I'm grateful that we put on events where the community can come together. So since we've already mentioned how wonderful it is, I just thought that I'd give you my take on it. As my +1 to the Fire Department Awards, I was able to bring my daughter. And then as my +1 to the Veterans Day event, I brought my mother. So we've got 3 generations within a couple of days going to these city events. And I really noticed how my daughter was impacted by seeing, oh, this is what dad does, and oh, this is what the city employees do. And it really personalized the fire department. Same thing going to other police events with my family. It's helped personalize fire, police, city council, mayor's department, city staff. And it was really wonderful to see the firefighters there with their significant others, their spouses, their +1s. I think that really brings the community together when you can have family there. I was able to interact with our city staff's family. And so I think that these events help in more ways than we initially anticipate by giving an award to a very deserving employee. It really brings the community together. And it was wonderful shaking hands and thanking veterans of different branches of service that fought in different conflicts. It's always wonderful hearing their stories. And I think there's so much that we can learn from others' experience, especially those who have gone before us, so that history doesn't repeat itself and that we can learn wisdom from their experience. So really wonderful to bring 3 generations together, not only in my family, but we brought families together at these events, and we brought the community together. So definitely a proponent of us being able to have as many of these worthwhile events as we can prudently put on. So thank you.
I'm going to jump in. You weren't fast enough. I'm jumping in. It was great to attend the firefighter awards dinner. Puts in perspective what they do that is really good. I've already mentioned the veterans. When I went out to the groundbreaking for it was actually the subdivision groundbreaking, not the truck ranch. The truck ranch groundbreaking will be later on. The one thing that they did say is that they actually showed a concept plan of what the entire corner of the project is going to look like. They said, but don't pay attention to these 4 commercial buildings. They'll actually look better. But we're going to get, I talked to Mr. Pengra, and he should be sending around a basic concept of what that corner is going to be like, so that if people start asking what's being built, we'll have a good concept. And apparently in some of the retail, they've already identified some food establishments that will go in there. So that was a positive. On a semi-personal note, I'm gonna point out, if any of you don't know William Royce, he's sitting back there in the cheap seats, and he's a member. He lives over in Council McConaughey's district, a couple of blocks east of you, Chris. He invited me to the 5th annual legislative shootout that was sponsored by now I've got to remember, the Central Labor Federation. Am I right?
I
something,
didn't get invited this year.
something close, and my shooting team happened to be three members of West Jordan. All four of us are West Jordan residents, and even though I was the worst shot on the team with an 81, we took first place. So, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. It was a great time. Got to know three other residents of four actually, plus your wife. His name is Annie, if I remember right. And I got to know her better, and so it was a great experience, and also getting to interact with some of our other elected officials. So thank you for inviting me. That was fun, and it topped the best part of winning first prize is that you got to go shoot a weapon on full automatic mode, and so I got to shoot an Uzi full automatic. Yeah, that was fun. So anyway, that's my report tonight. Councilmember Bloom.
I've been able to do that shootout a few years in a row. We always got second. So congratulations. No, it's really fun. I also got a chance to attend Tiny Tim's retirement party here in West Jordan, and what a joy that company has brought to so many residents in our city and beyond. I was really grateful I was able to go there and accidentally won a couple of auctions. I assumed people would behind me, but so I came home with a little more stuff that I haven't told my husband about yet. And I've been out of the country for the past since our last council meeting, and so I'm really sad I was unable to attend the veterans memorial. Having grown up in the military, it means a lot to me, but I did have a chance to experience Remembrance Day in Canada and the parade, and it's so meaningful, and I'm glad that I was able to at least participate in a Remembrance Day. And one of the biggest things that Canada had worked on is the gravestones of veterans all have a cross, and they have now updated to those of indigenous tribes now have their tribe symbol on their memorial, and I thought that was really heartwarming and touching. So my experience maybe a bit different this year, but the feelings of remembrance and Veterans Day was definitely there.
Any other comments? As far as housekeeping items, I will just mention, as the mayor mentioned, that the holiday introduction is December 1st. I think he just sent us an email. I remember seeing it in an email, but it may have been the newsletter. And we also have the employee luncheon coming up on, I think it's on Pearl Harbor Day, actually. So we'll look forward, if you haven't noticed that and RSVP'd, please go in on the link and click the RSVP and what meal you want if you're going to attend, so that Travis knows. And I think the other thing that we ought to just make sure everybody's aware of is that the Employee Association is collecting cereal boxes for, and that's full boxes of cereal, not empty. They're collecting cereal boxes to help bridge the gap as kids who are hungry have some food when they leave school and when they get back into school because they don't have school lunch. So I would challenge all of us to donate a few boxes of cereal. And I see Mr. Lee with the hand raised. What'd you do to your hand,
Vice
Corey?
Chair.
You got to stop hitting the mayor.
Just on that employee Christmas luncheon on Pearl Harbor Day, just a note, it will be at the Viridian. Last year it was out at Public Works. So if you come, please don't come to Public Works. It's at Viridian. Correct.
Cool. I don't think we have anything else. I will entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember McConaughey. I think Councilmember Worthen squeaked by you this time, Councilmember Bloom. All of those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. And for those of you that are students, 1:05 is actually a pretty good time for this council. Not the fastest, but getting close. So, thanks for being here.